Welcome to the 2-month review. Actually, welcome to an old episode of the 2-month review. So, as you may know, if you follow the 3% blog or the 2-month review Twitter or Chad posts myself, my Twitter, we are going to be launching the next season of the 2-month review in May. And it will focus on the third volume of Rodrigo Fresan's amazing trilogy that consists of the invented part, the dream part, and now the remembered part. The Remembered Part is a giant and incredible book, very rich, very fulfilling in terms of summing up and completing the trilogy. But before we dive into it, it felt like a good idea to try and remind everyone what happened in the first two volumes. The very first volume, The Invented Part, was the very first season of the 2-month review. So to celebrate Rodrigo, to emphasize his importance to both Open Letter and this podcast and everything else, I thought we would rerun all of the episodes from the Invented Part season and the Dream Part season, giving anyone who hasn't heard them before a chance to listen to them, but also anyone who's interested in joining up in this next season, focusing on the third volume of the trilogy. This could be a good refresher. I personally think I need it. My brain is just mush these days. So enjoy your re-listen or first listen to all of these forthcoming 2-month review podcasts. Subscribe to us, like us on YouTube, like us on Apple or whatever you do there. You rate things, like us, follow us on Twitter. We're at 2-month review, and have fun. Rodrigo is a blast. His books are wild, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy all of this. Welcome to the 2-month review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%. I'm Chad Post from Open Letter Books, joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox.
Hello, Chad. It's a pleasure to be here today on this lovely tax day.
I filed my taxes today.
You did?
Yeah, I owe New York State like $400, and they asked me when I wanted to pay that, and I was just like, July? Like, is there going to be a New York State or a government?
I'm gonna wait this out, see if I'm alive, and then maybe we can work.
I shit you not, that there was a question on H&R Block's form that said, did Chad Post die after March 16th, 2020? And I almost checked yes.
Yeah. What do you mean by die? There's a lot of me that dies every day. Today is my bottom. I hope. I said that online and someone was like, it'll get better. And I thought they said, no, it'll get worse. And I was like, yeah, that's probably true. Like, well, this isn't the bottom. There's lower depths to fall to. Sure. I have something that might cheer you up. For whatever reason, like there's like this running gag going right now with a bunch of folks, obviously with the being in the house all the time, like not wearing clothes and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, for whatever reason, my 5-year-old, she wants to have like fancy dinners. So she goes and finds like a dress you would wear for like a pageant that her grandparents give her, like stuff with bows and sequins and like it needs a tiara with it. And she puts that on and then she tells me to get dressed up. So I go put on like a sport coat or something, and then she picks out a tie, and so I'm wearing a sport coat and a tie, and then we eat like fried rice for dinner. Yeah. We have like a fancy sit-down dinner that we made. But it doesn't matter whatever we make, like whether it's nice or an everyday meal or whatever. She wants to get dressed up and have dinner. So I've been doing that for the last 2 weeks. This
is the most I've gotten. I just came in because I went outside to walk Alex. So I had my jacket, and this was like the first time I looked like a normal human being in weeks. Like I put on jeans every day when I teach because I don't want to like make a mistake. And because I
stand up and show everybody your junk. That'd be Someone hacked my Zoom. That's not me.
I totally freeball in most times here. Just like nonsense of like wearing clothes and underwear seems ridiculous. But when
oh, go ahead, keep going. Because I'm not done with my story, but you can interrupt as long as you want. I don't care, Chad. It's just us. That's fine. please, this is about you. I mean, this is your thing. It's your book. It's your publishing house. Go ahead, Chad.
I do stand up a lot when I'm teaching, though. Like I go, the cat will come in, or the baby will cry, and I'll have to do something, and I'm like, God, Jesus, I'm glad I put on some sort of clothing.
All right, so I was basically just trying to get to the fact that, so we're doing these dinner things, and we have a record player, and she wants to pick out the record that we listen to when we eat dinner. And so I was going through the record player with her, and I found this one. I bought this for Rodrigo, actually.
Oh, wow.
This is a limited edition pressing of Madonna True Blue. It's the single. It's from 1986, and it's actually blue. Yeah. But I won't tell his story, but I guess he has a very funny Madonna story because he interviewed her one time when she was doing Evita. And she came to Argentina, and apparently he had some very good questions for her that apparently she was just incapable of answering, as far as who Evita was, what she means to the Argentinian people, that sort of thing. So whenever you get Rodrigo back in town, don't let me forget that I have a limited edition Madonna pressing of True Blue.
That's awesome.
Because there was like the mention in here on this section of artists that only have one name. Yeah, it made me think of Madonna, and I was like, oh, that's right, I have that Madonna record that I wanted to give Rodrigo when he's in town.
So funny. It's so funny that you have that too,
and it looks great with the.
We're going to be traveling to our town again at some point in the future.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic with the book. You know, hey,
it does.
True Blue. According to Reservoir Dogs, that song is about meeting somebody that's well endowed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I don't know. Oh no, that's like a virgin. Never mind. Other song.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes more sense to me, for sure. Yeah. So, before we get this season for the 2-month review, we're doing the invented part, the dreamed part by Rodrigo Fresán, and today we're covering pages like 202 through 254, the last part of Penelope's section, which is the second section of the book, and we'll get into that in a second. But I decided unilaterally that our next season is going to be different than the other ones. We're going to do either between 3 and 4 books, but they're all short. And they're all books that are by Spanish women writers that are coming out during the apocalypse. So Cars on Fire is a short story collection that we brought out. And then 4x4 by Sarah Mesa is coming out on May 5th. And we were going to do lots of stuff for both of these. And, that's not going to happen. And then Carmen Buyosa has a book coming out from Coffee House called The Book of Anna that just released as well. And we were trying to do events with her. So we're going to use that one. And I don't know if there's anything else, but those 3 would make up like a 2.5 month review because they're all like 200 pages. They're not long.
Hell yes. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And short stories, novels. So we can have fun with it. So anyone who's listening, you can go to bookshop.org or wherever you want to get your books and order Cars on Fire by Monica Ramon Rios, 4x4 by Sarah Mesa, and The Book of Anna by Carmen Buyosa. And then we'll have updates later because it seems weird to say this, but doesn't it seem like this season's like going really fast because this book is not as long as Ducks Newburyport?
Sure. Yeah, it's a sligtly shorter.
We got to do 260 in Ducks Newburyport. We were 1/5 of the way through.
Yeah, and we're like almost halfway through.
Halfway. Yeah. It seems like it's like whoa.
Now Monica, she came to your wedding, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I gave her a ride to the train station actually, so I'm super excited to read this book. Oh, really? Yeah, I gave her a ride to the train station the day after your wedding. This is super random. Yeah, so that's cool. Cannot wait to read that. Her and Carlos. Yeah.
Her and Carlos. Yeah. So it just came out yesterday. Was its official publication date. So
happy birthday! And can't wait to read that. Hopefully we can have her on and talk with her about it.
Welcome to this great world. All of this could be yours.
Cheers.
This is absolutely proof that we live in the worst possible timeline. Like this is everything sucks. So you were saying before we got started that that you never read Wuthering Heights.
No, I have not. Which is like what? Like how is that possible? I think what it was I was taking like some survey of Brit Lit, and I'm sure it was on the syllabus, but I think looking at like how much time I had and how much to read, I read Jane Eyre and then I read Wide Sargasso Sea and thought like, yeah, if I just double down on that, I can probably write an essay good enough and just like sprinkle in some Wuthering Heights. But no, I've never read Wuthering Heights. So.
Have you ever seen any of the adaptations?
No, I have not.
I haven't either. I was trying to watch the Brunel one last night, but it's not on the Criterion channel. They have a bunch of his other movies, but they don't have that, and I couldn't find it streaming. Oh, okay. I also didn't go too far. I tried. I looked for like 12 seconds, and I was like, "Oh, it's not easily available. I guess I'm just not going to watch that."
Yeah, and you're a person who's actually read books, so you have read Wuthering Heights, correct?
But I did. We talked about this last week with Rachel that I read it in high school for like our AP English class. I remember distinctly it was an orange book with like a hard library binding cover. Like I remember that the most, and like those sort of thin pages that are like mass markets that they're trying to preserve at like public schools because they don't have enough money to buy nice books for anyone. Yeah. And 400 children have used this and read it already, so it's basically like just grimy. Yeah. I read it at my grandma's house in Alpena when she was still alive. She had this really amazing like upstairs attic and this really incredible bed that was like one of the nicest beds I've ever slept in. It was like old and like sturdy and comfortable. And I remember staying up all night reading that book there. And I remember like the dialect the most. But then my impression of it after that was like super vague. That I remember Heathcliff loves Catherine and goes crazy and that he's a dick. And then all the secondary parts of it, like the second half where the kids come back and basically reenact the whole tragedy of the first part with Heathcliff and Catherine and Edgar. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Why are you asking me?
Or whatever the person that she ends up marrying instead of Heathcliff. And then like the children come back and that kind of goes through too. That part's really didn't stick with me. But the other thing did that we talked about last week that I think has the most, in a way, has a lot to do with the dreamed part is that it's a book that's like told by people over and over again. It's like a series of nested narratives, sort of like a Faulkner book in that way. Yeah. Which like Nellie's telling Lockwood about these things that have happened. And then when he comes back the second time, she's like, oh shit, you're never going to believe it. The last 2 weeks, everything's gone crazy again. Here's what's happened to these people. So it's like the narrative of how it's being told. It reminds me of the Fresán thing as much as like the content and the fact that it is weird. It's a weird book. Like it seems to have like it has various like strange times inside of it and like things that happen or don't happen. And it is a weird book. Like it's not it's very wild and unconventional. And it kind of makes me want to read it again, but I think instead I'll watch that movie if I can find it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to read it, especially with this, because I just feel like I'm missing so much, especially in this section. Not having like a working understanding of that specific book. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think Penelope does kind of sprinkle in stuff like that in this section about how the book is structured, or is it? I forget what she calls it, but non-narrative or with great dialogue and something else. And I also like too how it when it comes full circle and the parents are saying like, it's a minor work. Like when you're ready for something serious, how about Tender is the Night?
there are so many threads to this section that are
this is insane. This section. So I know there's like tons I missed, and I'm probably super ill-equipped to speak any kind of intelligence to it, but I enjoyed it so much, even missing everything under the surface.
Yeah, I don't know, like not having read it, like there's enough of that where they describe the plot that I think you can hang on to. And and that it mostly is a way of talking. It seems like in this part, there's like a few different threads. One being to talk about the karmas, some more and like her relationship to them and to fill in certain gaps of like Mama Grandma coming to her after she's gotten pregnant by Maxie and is like, leaving the family and gives that long speech about like how why did you kill them? Because I'm
picturing her lover getting murdered in a tree, and that's not just something you should laugh about, but just the way he describes so.
It's like it's so bonkers. She keeps licking the knife handle until she bleeds out. Like, Wow.
Just sniping her lesbian lover out of a tree. Just like nothing ever happened. Just clip, clap, done. Moving on.
Let's go past that. That's one line that's used there. There's also a huge thing with her parents that you referenced. Mm-hmm. That's very crucial to this section. And then also Penelope's breakdown is described here as to why she's in Our Lady of Our Lady.
Yeah.
Right. And was there another line that I was thinking of? There's also it's not really a line, but in filling in the gaps about Penelope, it also references how the Brontes are the tulpas that she's writing that has made her famous, especially because she snagged all those Twilight readers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But that shows up in here too as and it actually references the invented part in here as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a lot of humor in this. There's obviously a ton of smarts and really cool cross references and deep dives, but I loved at the end how he kind of braided it all together into this moment of tenderness and you really feel for Penelope, or at least I did by the end of it, and I loved getting that kind of he kind of chiseled out this kind of cave behind Penelope, which gave her so much more depth and interest, and the way he connected the things within these kind of tunnels in this cave. It was just beautiful, well done, great crafting.
This is also too the first section that Penelope's really speaking, right? Because in the invented part is the narrator or the bad brother telling the story of Penelope and the karmas. Mm-hmm. That she keeps saying he stole that for his book, which is mantra. But I also feel an invented part. That's one of the sections that has a lot of the American typewriter bits to it, and I feel that's not really in her voice. I'd have to go back and double check, but in my mind, that's what it seems like. It was told as if the writer was relaying the story about Penelope rather than Penelope telling her own story. Where here she is definitely the narrator.
Yeah, she felt more of. I don't know. She wasn't really fleshed out, and it was kind of more she was more of an object or a device in the other book. Whereas this, she's more like a fully fledged character that you have feelings towards, and you're starting to understand motivations as to why she burned down the house. Before, it's wow, crazy sister with green diamonds and milk. That's weird. And then in this one, it's oh, got it. Okay, I get it. It was super rewarding.
It does talk about her son, which is really the big tragedy of this. And it is another section. The first part was all inverted, or structured like an infinity loop. This one isn't quite like that, but it is a circle of sorts. Because the explanation of where, if you remember when this one starts, it's on the fucking moon. And it's not easy to pick up. I wonder, does it actually start? What page is that?
Well, how about just read page 168? I know we're going back from the previous section from last week, but I had to miss out because of hospital stuff.
A lot on here.
But just this line on page 168. And Penelope, rechristened Penita, fled that place on the morning of her wedding day, crossing a desert riddled with diamonds, riding on the back of a gigantic and mutant and telepathic green cow, and drinking its strange and intoxicating milk, to then, her wedding dress in tatters, enter the clinic where the comatose Maxi lay and climb atop him and suffocate him and get impregnated by him and continue on her way, fearing the karmas would come to reclaim her soon-to-be-born son.
So that
what?
That's what happened.
There's your
an invented part.
That's the previously on.
Yeah, previously on.
You're just what did I miss?
It's so crazy. But yeah,
bonkers.
So this chapter, this begins with the Stella d'Or bit and the fact that they're trying to write this, has a section about that, and then gets into Penelope's story. So it begins the explanation is nested at the end of this part. So if you don't read the whole thing, the beginning is intentionally complicated for you, but it does make sense in the end as to where all the things are. And I really like how that structure is being used. It feels different between part 1 and part 2 in the way that he structured the information and leaked it out, in part because part 1 has more allusions to things that aren't real, whereas this feels basically all of this could happen.
Yeah,
I mean, not not the magic cows shit, but like her, like a woman becoming a famous writer by creating books like this, ending up losing her shit, going into a nunnery to like sort of to stave off like any further legal ramifications, and being obsessed with Wuthering Heights. All this seems realistic, but you begin in a place that makes it feel like this is like way wicked crazy sci-fi with Tulpa and like the moon and all that. And so it's like it goes from a dream into a reality. And sort of like,
it ends with a lot of realism
too, where it starts with like going up the hill to the Omnarium.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the reality later on. Since it's like coming out of a dream to figure out what pieces are or what things are real. It's just in this case, it's just really reframing it. It seems.
Oh, do you know what I just realized?
What's that?
Frickin' Rodrigo. So this section, the other night, irrational catalog for an exhibition of restless shadows. It begins with "Let there be light." Yes, but only so. And the next instant, the light can be snuffed out by the darkness. Here it comes again. What? The dark? So it starts with talking about light, and it ends with lighting a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. So he bookends the section. Oh, man. He's good.
Yeah. He's very good.
I totally forgot about that. Just like sneaks it in and don't even...
When you missed last week because you're intimidated by Rachel's brilliance.
I hate smart women. I don't know why I married one. I don't know why my wife birthed one, but I'm just surrounded by everything I hate. I agree. Just people smarter than me in general, which is a lot. So that's why I'm loving this isolation.
You have no proof, no way to verify how dumb you are anymore. It's great.
I'm loving it.
I had one of our mutual friends, Anastasia, threw York peppermint patties at me earlier today. That was the closest I had to human interaction in like a month and a half now.
From 6 feet away?
Yeah. Threw him on the ground. I went and picked him up. It's like reverse trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we can walk through parts of this too, because I think there are a few interesting things I noted about the plot and about some of the structures to this that might be useful for people who are listening. So it does have that great. The one thing I like at the beginning is that it does recap. Like you said that it recapped all the stuff. Oh wait, there was something I was going to tell you about last week, or when I said that we're not on here because of Rachel.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't remember. Doesn't matter. It'll come back to me. There's something specifically about last week's bit, though. Oh, I know what it was. Is that you were saying how well crafted this is. Last week's section, we talked about how many times it drops in words like wuthering, height. There's like lots of like references to the book Moors, things like that before the book is referenced directly. Like there's a lot of in this section, like a lot of peppering of those kind of those terms where you could choose a different synonym would make just as much sense, but it's choosing the one that will like evoke Emily Bronte and Wuthering Heights. And that's really cool too, that it is like there's nothing that's unintentional, even though this book seems so woolly and so like rants and lists and like goes on like that, like as if you're just like making things up out of thin air. If the writer is, it really does have like a lot of plotted like moments to it. That's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
I do appreciate too that like a recap page, he does work in all the things that you can't remember about Penelope and her past story into this, because that was the one that like I remembered the invented part, a lot of it, but that section was one that was like I remember the cows and I know the karmas and I know, but I couldn't quite remember like how it all worked together because it was told in such a weird way. Because it's also in the section, it's embedded in the section in which the young boy and the young girl are camping there to try and research the author, the writer.
Yes.
And so it was like so many layers that were surrounding that one's one that some of the pieces didn't come up. But now that it recaps it like right away is so helpful. And goes into the thing about Lena, her lesbian lover, how she gets shot and killed, and also how she inspired her to write these books. So the writing the books on 204, she's going to write those novels as if they were, all of them, mutant variations on Emily Bronte's second novel that may never have existed. Doesn't matter. And that's her inspiration for her tulpas, which make her a very famous author.
Yeah, wordplay you're mentioning too on 204 at the bottom. The Bronte sisters on the moon, thought Penelope, thinking this is the kind of loony thinking only a lunatic can think. right? Like using the word lunatic, which is obviously from lunar and moon.
And moon.
Very tricky.
Very fun. Very fun.
Yep. Wink, wink.
There is, yeah. This, yeah. And then she goes into this.
I love the karmas, by the way. I it's like a love-hate relationship, but I so want just a one-off, like maybe just a novella of like the karmas in Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Like I want to, maybe because I'm researching Las Vegas and writing about Las Vegas right now, but the parts on here where it talks about how the karmas love Las Vegas, it was just like, yes, of course they do.
Las Vegas is perfect for this. Well, I mean, I think that they're huge parts of Mantra. That the karmas are like a huge part of that. So you might get.
I haven't read Mantra.
It's not translated yet. It won't be
because I looked for it and I could not find an English translation, and I don't think I'm good enough to like translate it myself.
I've been trying. I thought during quarantine I would master Duolingo Spanish, and instead I start doing it, and I just feel stressed out and depressed because I'm like, when am I ever going to use this now? I'm never going to speak to a human being again.
So is Mantra being translated, or?
Yeah, but it's after the remembered part.
You guys are doing it?
Yeah, it's queued up.
Oh, cool.
It was the first book of his we signed on, actually. But we did 3 at once: Bottom of the Sky, Invented Part, and Mantra. But
is Mantra stories, or is it a novel?
No, it's a big novel too, and it's like set up like a dictionary with alphabetical entries.
Okay.
For everything. It was part of there was a Random House in Spain, Random House Mondadori, commissioned, I think there was 6 writers to write a book about 6 different cities for the year 2000. And so like Bolaño did one on Rome that's like about a retired boxer, if I remember right. And then Fresán did one on Mexico City, and that's where the karmas and that's Mantra. Karmas and wrestling and all kinds of other things that are in there. Did you see that wrestling is now an essential activity in Florida?
Yes, of course. Of course it is.
I don't understand what this word essential means anymore. Like, I think words have lost most of their meaning.
There was something in particular about the karmas that I thought was fantastic and really kind of sad and maybe slightly prophetic. In the way it with us having like the Trump family in control. I don't know if I wrote down where it is. I think it's on page 221. Just real quick, while we're talking about karmas.
Yeah.
I guess maybe like halfway down, or about a quarter of the way down. It starts with the karmas in Mount Karma, like the home of an environmental catastrophe, of an atomic accident of the kind whose importance corporations and governments tend to downplay and, yes, diminish its size and intensity. And a little bit further down, the karmas are convinced they're excellent people, great human beings, the best of the best. Like, you did that part as well.
I circled contamination and toxicity of small and numerous miseries.
Plague.
Ever talked about a devastating plague that always leaves someone by the wayside.
It felt so like, wow, that's just really hitting home now.
Yeah. I was listening to a new album this morning from Bill Baird, and there's a song called Empty University, and I was just like, Jesus, this is like not what I need right now.
And the other weird thing that these things keep circling in together was finding out that Rodrigo was a big fan of John Prine.
Mm-hmm. Which not only a big fan of, but when he was on tour for the Invented Party, went and saw him in Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago, went to go see him at a show. So I guess I didn't realize I had listened to him or known of him, but I started listening to him some more since his passing. And the very first song I listened to him was about what he's going to say to God when he gets to heaven. So it was just like this really neat, like introduction I just sat there and just cried listening to it.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, what a weird, interesting moment, and this kind of like weird synergy of things kind of aligning in this strange way. But really, just too much. Maybe I'm looking into things too much, but in this book too, just like too much of it is just hitting home at the exact perfect right moment. This is just like a perfect book for where we're at right now. Like the timeliness of it could not be better.
That's the case with 4x4 too. We might want to flip flop when we do the next season, because that one really actually kind of almost speaks to what's going on right now, in the sense that there's a long, I don't want to go in the whole thing, but part of the idea is that if you wall yourself off to try and prevent other people from getting to you, that you create your own dangers within that system.
Oh, cool.
And it will still happen.
And I apparently found out the translator of that book, Katie, she's part of my quinta. I had no idea. So we're in a quinta together.
You are. It's actually just a really shitty hotel.
I know. It's like, oh, is that the hotel where you can bring your dog into the room?
Yeah.
Awesome.
The amount of dog stuff in this book of shitting on dogs is making me very happy. I know everyone loves their dog and it's a good time to have a pet and all that kind of stuff, but like it still cracks me up because I'm not a big dog person. I do love, so then she goes through all the characters, or a number of the characters from Wuthering Heights, and kind of compares them or sets up a contrast with the karmas. And this is where it can get like sharp and pointed and sort of mean towards the karmas, but also like explaining their sort of frivolity and like weirdnesses. But the part on Heathcliff I marked because I really like the way that this was described. And sure, this is on 207. And sure, Heathcliff is one of the most romantic and impassioned characters in all the history of literature. But he's also a psychopathic sociopath, a control freak, a possessive bad guy, a dangerous bipolar whose ferocity is even more frightening than that of those hunting dogs that lap at your ankles and are always ready to go bite whatever they're told to after watching their master strangle a puppy with a wicked smile, one of those smiles that bears teeth and fangs. Like it went way off.
Okie dokie.
I got all of that Heathcliff bit.
I just remember he was like the trash can Garfield growing up. Remember the cartoon Heathcliff, where he would he was always like, there'd be a hobo hat with a flower that comes out of it, and then he would eat a fish in one bite, and only the skeleton would come out. Yeah.
Do they still have like comic pages in newspapers?
I don't know. I think he was Hanna-Barbera, which is like kind of I ate bagged cereal as a kid, so like we were poor. So like Hanna-Barbera is right up my alley. Looney Tunes? No. I'm watching the Wacky Races with Heathcliff.
Yeah. Wacky Races. Sure. Snagglepuss.
Yeah.
Oh, Future Quest, is that Hanna-Barbera?
I don't remember.
I don't remember anymore either. It's a nice Bruce Wayne reference in here, which I love. Okay, so there also, so she does that, and then the other part is that she talks a bit about the different ways that she came to this, and that the various recreations, the adaptations that have been made of Wuthering Heights, and the attempt to for people to make Return to Wuthering Heights or Wuthering Heights Part 2 or like any of those kind of things, plus all the movies which sound remarkably bad, except for the one. Which seems like it could be okay, and that I want to watch. Luis, another one.
Which last week, did you guys talk about Barbarella at all?
We did not talk about Barbarella. I was already very uncomfortable coming on to with Rachel, and I'm basically naked and with the one hitter and a shot of whiskey like that. Like I was already not in a place where talking about Barbarella.
That's the perfect time to talk about Barbarella. That's a film I wonder if folks from our generation, have they seen that? Do they know Barbarella? They know Jane Fonda, I'm sure, but
I don't.
That movie is bonkers.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah.
I think maybe that's what I'm going to do today. Is I'm just going to get wasted and watch some shitty ass movie.
Oh, if you want to watch a bad movie, I'm really into bad movies.
Yeah,
I think there's a wonderful one starring Frank Stallone, and it's called Terror at Beverly Hills.
Nice.
It is fantastic. Just to let you know, the climax of that movie takes place at the old bean factory. So that's a real movie with a climax that takes place at the old bean factory. Wow. That movie is so bad, it's amazing. Oh, so good.
Yeah, this looks fantastic. There's also I was also going to check out because the new How Did This Get Made, or it's like a old one that they released that I think I listened to before because Jessica St. Clair is on it, and it's about Valerian, which is apparently like one of the craziest worst movies ever too. Have you seen that? It's Valerian in the City of 1,000 Planets.
Yes, yeah, of course I've seen that. That's Luc Besson. Yeah, I've seen that one. I like that.
85% of people loved it.
Yeah, it's like crazy bad. It's terrible, and the guy that's acting in it is awful. He's one of the leads in that new Amazon Prime show 000.
Oh, I don't even know what that one is.
He's just this really bad wooden actor. I don't know how he keeps getting parts, but he's fantastic. Yeah, it's really, really bad. It's really cringy. And you're going to love it. Rihanna is in this one, and she is miserable.
Nice.
It's really good. You're going to love it.
This is probably what I need. I've been watching Westworld and reading, and that's not good for me.
And Valerian starts with David Bowie, Major Tom. And so it's this really cool montage of like 300 years of interacting with aliens, playing with David Bowie playing. So you're in for a treat. I'm there for that. It's a weird film.
Speaking of David Bowie, he's on they have on the Criterion Collection right now. They have The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which I 100% want to rewatch and then reread Valis, since those two are connected in my mind forever and ever and ever.
Oh, speaking of Philip K. Dick, this is another weird connection. So I borrowed one of your Philip K. Dick books. I'll give it back to you.
No, I don't care. Books are like water.
Sure. I'll give you some water back. I'll pay it forward.
Venmo me some water.
Yeah.
Venmo me beer. I don't drink water anymore.
Given the times that we're living in, I think Rodrigo had sent a headline of like, we don't even know how to count the dead.
Yeah.
What?
The government doesn't know how to count the dead.
Yeah. Well, I was randomly reading Dr. Blood Money, which is like probably the greatest title to be like, given what's going on right now. Dr. Blood Money is this great title. And so my daughter comes in and she's like, "What are you reading?" And I'm like, "Oh, Dr. Blood Money." And she's like, "Oh, I want to read that too." And I'm like, "Well, maybe a little bit later." She's been going around all day today holding the book going, "Dr. Blood Money, Dr. Blood Money." Going around my house. And the news yesterday was like, New York spikes by 3,000 more deaths because they miscounted the dead. It's like, oh, Jesus.
I saw a thing today that's like from who's it from? ProPublica maybe, where it's super underestimated because there's more deaths at home than there have been ever. And like they think that could possibly be just ones that aren't getting counted too.
Well, like rural America, like they're gonna.
Oh, dude, I saw a picture of people outside of the Michigan state capitol with AK-47s and like protesting the stay-at-home orders. I think we're in for a crazy, crazy moment in time soon.
All right.
If things aren't bad enough, be sure and stock up on weaponry.
Sure.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
One of the things I really liked in this section really hit home for me was on page 211. When she's talking about being on tour, like on the literary circuit, and being with like a really prominent, like well-to-do, respected writer, and the way that these conversations go, I thought was just absolutely. I was smiling the whole time I read it, and then I really like this part about 2/3 of the way down after the ellipses. Now writing seems to be merely the prologue. When they want you to be like a politician or a preacher and for you to offer an opinion about everything. And I wonder if we aren't betraying the basic idea of the whole thing, the mystery of creating an object that contains all the explanations for those individuals who know how to read them on their own without needing us to go around from one auditorium to the next, pointing them out, ringing our little bells like leprous visionaries at the end of the world. And then later on, because it's much easier to read a writer than a piece of writing, right?
Yep, I love it. I love it.
Like I have like tiny little sliver of light, like of a cracked door into this room from the few readings that I've given at schools and stuff. And almost every single time when they open up to questions, like none of the questions are about like the actual piece of writing. It's more about like, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about like, what the fuck does it matter what I think about anything? Like I'm not, one, I'm not important. Two, like I'm not, like my opinions don't mean anything. Like three, like I totally, wholly loved that part.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so
It's
true.
like, what do you want my opinion on American Dirt for? Like, I didn't write that book. I'm not gonna write that book. Like, I don't. Like,
I'm not going to read that book.
I'm not gonna read that book. Like, what do I care about it? Like,
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Although, in a way, like I'd be willing to go back to that world for a little bit. Like, I mean,
Sure.
It feels somehow comforting at this moment. Like,
I want to talk about Kobe Bryant and migrants dying on their way across the border,
so,
and cultural appropriating that into a bestseller.
so the day when I texted you guys was like, remember when Kobe Bryant was the news story of 2020? It was like the moment I was like, holy shit! Like,
those were the good old days.
When they like interrupted like baseball programming to say Kobe Bryant had died, it was like, yeah, that's really crazy. And then does nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to remember that in 20 years.
I miss the good old days. Just white ladies writing about Mexicans and basketball stars slamming into the hills of Hollywood.
Yep.
To think those were the good old days. That's where we are now.
I'm so depressed, right?
Sorry.
The lowest I've been in months. I'm trying my best, guys. Hold it. So I took a shower and shave so I would not reflect my pure utter despair. I wrote a post today, though. I wrote a post for our website.
There you go.
Yeah, fucking right there happening. So one of the big things, though, that I think we should talk about is, okay, so we have the karmas. We can have different jokes and things about them and how they're representing their, well, one last one. I like on 225, going back to this, various dogs. The Harry Masters at Cardi, these Nasser and Wolf, and that leap for Lockwood's throat, blah, blah, blah. All the different dogs that are referenced in Wuthering Heights gets its own entry, which is fantastic. But aside from that part of it, and there's all the adaptations that are listed on 228, which I think are interesting, because I think that this is kind of the idea of, what does that say? The idea of how she's taking their life and making it into her novels in the same way that there's a line somewhere in here, which here it is, on 235. Nobody would tell your story because it's sad and boring. This is Mama Grandma talking to Penelope after Penelope's killed Maxie, her husband / Mama Grandma's son,
sure,
whatever. And she's like, "Well, I'm glad you did it, because like I already have one death in my hands." And she says, "Nobody would tell your story because it's sad and boring. Only the part that overlaps with ours will be somewhat amusing, and that part so entertaining that many will say it must be the invented part." Ends here, and I like that little sly bit in there too, quite a bit. I really like that. But the other big thing that happens in this chapter, we find out that she got in trouble for going to the Bronte Museum after. Well, we know that she lost her son. They went out for a walk, and then her son disappears. And instead of staying in one place, she doesn't wait for him. She can't find him. It's very vague as to what's happened, but he's gone. And the assumption is that she killed him. But there's also that reference to if the Karmas knew that she was pregnant and had a son, they would come take him, which you read at the very beginning of this podcast, which might or might not be important, right? So the idea of that, the real tragedy of Penelope is that her son went missing, and we don't know what happened or what at all, and she doesn't know, and she can't remember things about it. It's blocked off. She's writing about this other kid, which sort of is a stand-in, but she doesn't want it to be a stand-in because she wants to invent it. And then there's this, then related to that is Penelope's relationship to her parents. So there's a lot of like parent-child things in here. And so her parents piss her off.
Yes.
And we know this from the invented part that they're obsessed with Tender as the Night, which you mentioned too, where they're like, yeah, Wuthering Heights is like child's play. Wait till you get to Tender as the Night. This is a real book. And she's like, fuck you. I don't care about your Tender as the Night book. And also Great Gatsby is just a ripoff of Wuthering Heights. Someone moves in, there's a big passionate love affair, ends in a death. All these things, like all the same, like totally makes sense. But then, so her parents say that they're going to give her a gift, and that her gift is them recreating Wuthering Heights for one of their commercials, because they have this famous bit where they sail around the world filming like sexy commercials for some brand of whiskey that is always never mentioned, and that they do one where they recreate Wuthering Heights, and it pisses her off to no end because they're like mocking her.
Yeah.
And mocking her obsession with this particular book. And so as a result, what she does is she knows that on Christmas Eve, they're going to go raid a department store with all the Marxists and like the unwanteds of Argentina at that time. And so she calls the government hotline to tell them that this is going to happen. And that's how her parents get both busted by the police / military and killed. So she is directly responsible for their death because she took they're giving making a commercial of Wuthering Heights as something that was mocking and insulting to her, and she then fucks them up, and then she loses her son. This like recurring loss that happens in there is really like the sadness of like her section.
Middle of page 249, which led Penelope to suffocate, or I guess go a little bit higher than that. That strange and sacred and dark motivation, which leads you to see, though it's not there, someone opening a coffin and lifting a dead woman in his arms and dancing with her, which led Penelope to suffocate a comatose husband and to lose a son and to write all those books. If William S. Burroughs became a writer, quote, thanks to the accident, unquote, of killing his wife with a bullet to the head, Penelope became what she is thanks to the surprise her parents gave her and the surprise she subsequently gave them.
Yep. Exactly.
This also kind of made me think of Twin Peaks, where the dad jumps on the coffin, right?
Whoa!
Whoa, there it is.
A reversal of fortune.
Oh, look at
You brought up Twin Peaks this time.
44 minutes.
You're right. Yep.
Where's David Lynch?
There hasn't been any David Lynch yet. We need to throw that in there. Yeah, that is funny. Like with the jumping on the coffin. That's a great scene. That's like an iconic scene.
That's all I remember as a kid watching it with my parents.
Because it keeps going up and down.
Yeah.
And it's like that mixture of like horror and tragedy with like this comedic.
Yeah. What year did Twin Peaks come out? The first one?
1992 or 93, right around there.
So
91 to 93, somewhere like that.
So yeah, imagine like being 10 or 11 years old watching that. Like that movie made no sense or that miniseries made no sense to me. And why are my parents letting me watch that?
I think I was 17. I was 16 or 17 when it started.
Was it on Fox? That had to have been on Fox.
No, it was on ABC.
ABC? Okay. That seems like something Fox would show.
No. It was an ABC show, and like it got out. They always had like the Mary Tyler Moore show was like this big competition, I believe. I forget there's something, and like it got crushed by like some random. It was on like a Friday night, so it was like at a weird time. All of it was.
I have no clue why
I can't remember now.
Watching it because that's not that like David Lynch is not their thing at all. But yeah,
it's a good mystery.
Sure.
Good noir. I finally watched. I don't know if this was on this podcast. I don't know when I talk to people anymore because most of the time I'm on screen. So I'm never sure when that conversation took place. It could be with my class, could be at happy hour, it could be whenever. But I finally watched Sunset Boulevard, which is where Gordon Cole comes from for Twin Peaks.
Okay. Yeah, I've never watched that.
It's a pretty straightforward, like, Hollywood noir movie in which you kind of know who the murderer is from the beginning, and it follows like a certain pattern because we've seen enough of those now. But it's like one of those early ones that is really fun. And but Gordon Cole is the name Gordon Cole for David Lynch's character in Twin Peaks comes from Sunset Boulevard, and I wondered why that was. And Gordon Cole in the movie is literally a guy that just calls up this actress who's like washed up old actress who wants to get back into the business and is writing a movie to like get her back on the big screen, blah, blah. And she assumes that Gordon Cole is calling her because they want to produce her movie and have her be a star. And so she goes to the Hollywood lot and she's like, thank you. You know, it's wonderful. Why don't you just call me yourself? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it turns out that Gordon Cole is like like a set designer who's trying to call her because he wants to use her car because it's so old that they could use it for like these old timey movies. And he's like, all I wanted to do is like borrow her car. He's in there for like a minute maximum and does like one random thing which is like the perfect David Lynch moment. Like, I get it now.
Yeah.
Anyways, so her parents are killed because of that. At least in this moment in time, that's what we know. And then the other things that she goes into the Bronte part, I'm just gonna read this because like this is essentially where there are moments where I feel like I'm either in complete despair or at this. And this is the opposite of complete despair in my like bipolar mental breakdown, COVID breakdown moment, okay?
Okay.
Let's preface it like that and also say that I do not have any weapons. The green and this is on 251. First of all, it says, she's so tired of writing and living as if she were reading, as if her life were a novel with too many ellipses. The death of Lena and the death of Maxie. The green and enlightening milk she drank that night in the desert, and the impossible to illuminate black hole of that night when she went out walking on the beach with her young son and, quote, reader, I lost him, unquote. And contrary to what's recommended in such situations, she didn't stay in place to wait for him to appear, clapping so you would hear and find her. Rather, since that moment, Penelope hasn't stopped moving and cursing herself everywhere until she achieved her fade to white, going madder than ever before at the Bronte Parsonage Museum, where something clicked and something snapped, and suddenly she was beating on the walls of the museum with one of those jacks for changing tires that she grabbed out of the trunk of her rental car. Penelope wrecking everything. Which shouldn't be funny, but it's kind of funny. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like at this moment, like one of those stupid that shit that we make fun of here, like the riot room and the axe throwing things, I would fucking wreck something right now. If given the chance, I would pay whatever. I would give you my $300 stimulus check from the fucking government to just smash things right now and just to feel like I could just let out all of the anxiety and depression and anger that I have in one fell like baseball bat to a car sort of move.
Yeah.
Actually, smash my car.
There you go.
You know, why not? I'm never going to use it again. Public transportation, wait, no, never mind.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. I see people on the bus, and I feel so sad for them.
I don't. You can't get a DUI on the bus. So, hey.
You also can get, you probably can get the virus on the bus.
Well, yeah, you can get that, but whatever. You can't let this tyranny of this virus like impede your freedom. Clearly.
You know what? That's what we need to do. What we need to do is rebrand books. Instead of books being like books, they should be like freedom, like just add freedom to it. Like not freedom books, but like freedom experiences. That you should all be in quarantine buying these freedom experiences. They allow you to live again by buying books. They're like freedom pies.
Yeah, exactly.
Or freedom sticks when women learn how to smoke because of Edward Bernays. Anyways, what other things on this are you most interested in? Those are the main plot points that I was caught up with in this one of like the parents, how she ended up there.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I loved the kind of the background and fleshing out Penelope more. Made her much more like sympathetic and real to me. Can't get enough of the karmas. Yeah. Anytime we get some karma love, or it's not really love, but just showing how grotesque they are. Love it.
It is so funny when they every time they show up, they're hilarious.
Yeah, like they compare their diseases like people compare cars, and they compare cars too. Just all like there's like so much like great little stuff. Just or like why they like Las Vegas so much. Like, yeah, it's like you're traveling to. I thought it'd be bigger. Like looking at the Las Vegas, their little tiny miniature Eiffel Tower, and
what is Vegas like right now?
It's empty. There's nobody there. It's closed, which is probably amazing.
It's probably amazing.
Yeah.
I read an article the other day about sex workers having these pop-up like strip clubs on Instagram Live. They're run by it's like someone famous who's like the son. It's like Puff Daddy's child runs these like pop-up Instagram strip clubs.
Cool.
Yeah, this is a crazy story I read. I was just
I
like,
have no
I
idea.
like to share it, but I also felt like kind of dirty. So I'll just air it publicly on YouTube because that seems better somehow.
Sure.
Nobody's watching us.
But I guess like to wrap it up, I think on page 254, there's just a perfect line, I think, that can kind of encapsulate some of the genius that Rodrigo does with his writing. So we had mentioned that the beginning of this section talks about let there be light. There's a lot of God talk in here as well. And obviously, let there be light being the beginning of God creating the universe.
Yeah.
And that's mirrored in, I believe it's in John 1:1, where instead of in the beginning was the Word. So there's that aspect to it as well, that religious. But it talks about the Fitzgeralds in here. And then it's leading up to the light and the fire. And in the middle of 254 is this line, Penelope writing her love letter from inside a burning building that is this building. And that was a very famous piece of writing advice from Fitzgerald, that you're supposed to, when you're writing, you need to write like you're writing a love letter inside of a burning building.
I meant to ask you that because it references that earlier too, and I thought that's what it was, and I couldn't remember it. I know that it's like a thing that you use in writing classes.
Yeah, that's one of Fitzgerald, like who's your audience, or how do you write, or how should you write. So again, it's just another example of just like this nicely kind of thread, like this beautiful weighted through line that's kind of bringing everything all together. Just awesome, very, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, is that your favorite line?
No, I just thought it was a great line. But that can be my favorite line just for time's sake, since we're up to.
No, you can pick another one. I'm trying to figure out what I want to choose.
I had a question from last week. Was what is the typeface that this book is set in? Because on page 184, there's a capital Q. And the little like thing that comes down off the Q is so freaking long. I don't recall ever seeing a Q that looks like that. It was amazing. I circled it because it was so cool.
Oh my God. Under Queen,
right? Like it goes all the way under the U. I'm like, what typeface is this?
Yeah, you're right. That Q is wild.
That's cool, right?
Caslin, a family of serif typefaces based on the designs of William Caslin, 1692 through 1766.
This is set in Caslin, you said?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's in the front. It's in the copyright page.
Oh, it is? Oh, shame.
Look at that. Give me information.
Why would I want to look up something when I could just ask? Duh.
I meant to look up a bunch of stuff about Wuthering Heights adaptations for this, so that we can fully prepared. Didn't do it.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
What's your favorite line? Go ahead.
I don't know. So I was flipping through to see if I could find one that I really, really like from here, because I like a bunch of them, but I have so many things underlined. The Heathcliff being a psychopath one is one of my favorites. It just like starts out okay and then just goes off rails.
Yeah, that was great. That was
the dog being choked by the man with this crazy smile. Like, got it. Cool.
I love the section about Karma's being gay but not coming out of the closet, and instead they do this at the country club, and then you have to get them home while they're drunk because they're dancing weird and talking weird. That whole part, man, I was just cracking up.
Me too. The Karma's makes me laugh so hard. I love that.
I want a Karma's in Vegas book, like Karma's at the Wynn. The Wynn Hotel.
Rodrigo, do it. Rodrigo, write this book right now. Karmas don't do quarantine. Karmas go to Vegas during quarantine.
I want to know what shows they go to. Of course,
Celine Dion.
Yeah, Celine Dion.
Which have you ever read a book about Celine Dion by Carl Wilson called oh shit, what is it called? It's on like her famous her most. It's one of those 33 1/3 books that are about particular albums, and it's on the Celine Dion album, the most famous one, the Titanic song and all that kind of shit. And it's basically, I think it's subtitled "The End of Taste," and it's about how like Celine Dion is like the most tasteless artist that you can like. Essentially, it like goes through like this whole hemming and hawing of like you shouldn't make judgments over art. Everyone has different taste. Blah, blah, blah.
Hell no.
Like
No, there's
like
watch Terror at Beverly Hills and let's talk about art and cinema, okay?
Dude, look at the quarantine list, and you're gonna be like, shit, this virus is affecting people's taste hard. Like it's really bad. Like all these like attempts to be like, here's 500 long books to read during quarantine, and it's just like, what kind of piece of shit can I find in my local free public library that I won't touch because it's probably filled with coronavirus?
I'll bet you $1 though that or how about we'll bet a friendly drink. Yes or no? I say yes. That Fresán has interviewed Celine Dion or has had some correspondence with her.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go yeah.
Oh.
Probably not because she's not really the interview. But I'll go yeah.
Yeah, I want you to be right. I want you to win.
All right, I'm gonna go yes. We'll see if we can get in contact with through email if that could be.
We'll find. Let's
confirmed
find
or not. But I do know he has interviewed Madonna, and I have this waiting for him. 1986, ready to go.
I haven't heard that song in so long.
It's not a good song. That's why.
The song that I want to hear, though, that as you bring that up, is the Chacona Youth, Sonic Youth version of Into the Groove that they did. Have you heard that?
Oh, really? No, I didn't realize that she's from Rochester, right?
Madonna? She's from Bay City.
No, not Madonna. She's from Michigan. That's your people. But no, Sonic Youth. What's her name? Yeah, isn't she from Rochester?
Rochester?
Yeah, which means like I have no hope of ever being the coolest person from Rochester because clearly she's the coolest.
I remember playing this nerdy game, and I know exactly who played it, so I'm not going to name this, but we played this nerdy game during like
it's either her or Thurston Moore. I don't know which one, but
holy shit, Kim Gordon was born in Rochester, New York.
There you go. See, I bet you Caitlin knew that. Already knew that, but yeah,
that's amazing. Kim Gordon, the coolest, is my favorite.
Yeah, she's like the coolest person. Like no one's gonna be as cool as she is. She's like baller.
So we were at this shitty, weird like literary conference years ago, and they were playing some game over dinner, being like, if you could be anyone of the other gender, who would it be? And then my only answer was Kim Gordon.
Yeah,
I would be Kim Gordon in a second.
Sure,
like, she's a baller.
Yeah, so Rochester, there you go.
Holy shit!
See, good stuff comes out of here, not just garbage plates.
Shit, what? Her dad was a professor at the U of R.
All right, there you go.
No way. I wish
we can do a different podcast where we look at Wikipedia and talk back and forth. But
okay, my favorite line.
Your favorite line. Let's get this over with.
Page 220. I don't know 3. The important thing is to fail successfully and to be sure you won't be the last one to fail. And Penelope thing, to kind of understanding that less money is wasted by investing in doing nothing or concocting unfeasible slow motion plans. Through all those ventures, if losing money were a profession, the Karmas would be millionaires.
Again, man, it's like the Trump family.
That's what I live by. Lose it all. Oh, God.
If you bankrupt 5 times, you too could be president. I'll go on page 237, right about 2/3 of the way down. Penelope knows ghosts don't exist, but the dead do exist. Penelope knows writing, yes, fictions, is the best way to keep from thinking of your own nonfiction. I like that one.
So good, so good. So
crazy book for crazy times. What are we reading to next week, Chad?
Give me 2 seconds. We are going to page.
We start at 261. I know that.
We're starting at 255, technically, which is, so we have 5 episodes left to go through the third part of the book, which is called Tonight, Manual of Last Rites for Waking Dreamers. So we're doing 255 to 307.
307. All right.
Yeah, so like a 50-page burst.
Ready to roll. Let's do that.
So cool. And maybe we'll have a guest. If anyone wants to guest on this, just email me or text me or whatever. I don't know. You know, you can find me. I'm always online apparently now. And also wash your hands.
And as do you know, will Will be able to come on this season or no?
I don't know where he is right now. I'll find out.
Okay, he's missing in the world, but if he was around,
he was moving back to Florida from the south of Mexico.
Oh, what a nightmare!
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's happening. So I think he should be here, and he should be able to come on. I'll text him in a minute and see. Maybe we could have him on next week. That'll be fun.
Give him a couple weeks. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, they moved back a few weeks ago, so hopefully.
Okay, cool.
God damn it. This sucks. Okay, everyone, stay safe. Stay inside. Read your freedom thought books or whatever. And that.